He challenged me. He said, you should meet 2 or 3 people every day.
We're talking about how to level up on LinkedIn and engagement, being the go-giver, the idea that being open to opportunity.
We all deal with challenges, but how do you overcome that?
Master Connector with Steve Spiro is live on air.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Master Connector Show. And I'm Rob Genovese. I'm the guest co-host here. And I just want to take a second here to welcome you all to the show. And if you're watching this on replay, put hashtag replay in there because we want to know that you're out there and you're listening, and make sure you're participating too. But I'm proud to be, part of this. This is my third show and guest hosting with my friend Steve Spiro in here. Steve and I go back about 27 years or so, a long time. Somewhere in the lines, our paths diverged, but then they came back. And well, here we are. So you guys, if you're tuning in, if you've tuned in before, you know about Steve. He is the Master Connector. He and I were coming through the ranks in business, and he tore out of the gate knowing how. Well, I shouldn't say knowing how, right, Steve? You were learning how to meet people, how to do it, because we both are introverts. We come from a little bit of shy side, a little bit of awkwardness, a little bit of social anxiety, both of us. But somewhere along the line, Steve pulled it together, learned a lot, had mentors that guided him, that helped him become what he is today, the Master Connector. So help me welcome everybody, Mr. Steve Spiro, the Master Connector.
What's going on? Rob, listen, you know what? I've had people introduce me, but nobody has had 20 plus years of kind of what the old Steve was to the new Steve. And so, yeah, I appreciate the kind words. And it's been a crazy journey, and it's been a cool journey being on that ride with you, sir. But what's going on, friends? It's Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. And today's show, is gonna revolve around a topic that honestly it's close to my heart. It's you have amazing value, and this particular message I'm passionate and I'm about, and I believe in, because each and every one of us possesses incredible potential and unique abilities. Okay. Reflecting on my own journey, I certainly didn't have a smooth ride through the educational system. Like our guest, and he's having some technical trouble, so we'll see if he gets on here, but hopefully he will. But, I also struggled with school. I doubted my abilities and questioned my chances of success, to be honest with you. But overcoming this involved recognizing that traditional education doesn't define a person's worth or potential, right? And what I learned is it's finding your own path, learning from experiences, and embracing self-discovery. We're going to speak about how authentic and empathetic communication and understanding people's needs and offering genuine solutions can transform the sales process. It's about building relationships, not just transactions, right? I heard it said years back, and I read a book. It's called Ditch the Pitch, right? Forget pitching, right? We gotta communicate. We gotta connect, right? And this is an era of the creator economy, where high valued skills like creativity and adaptability and digital literacy and effective communication have been paramount, and we will talk about that today a bit, right? Assuming Simon gets on with us, right? Embracing these skills, can empower you to not only survive, but to thrive in this dynamic landscape. And now, I do firmly advocate that everyone possesses amazing values. Why is that, right? Well, simply put, it's each person has unique blends of talents, experiences, and perspectives that contribute. All right, it looks like he's coming on here. Hopefully we'll be good to go. Contribute to the world in a distinctive way, right? Recognizing and celebrating individuality is key to unlocking one's true potentials. So, embrace your uniquenesses and never underestimate the impact that you can have in the world. So if you're ready, and hopefully we're going to be able to pull him in now. It looks like he's got the technology working right. If you're ready, I'm going to have my man, Rob G, introduce him. And Rob has been an incredible friend to me. As he said, we've seen each other grow in amazing way. And I've seen him come out of the gate, especially in this latter probably last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and explode in the branding world and really shine in the way that he really was destined to shine. So if you're ready for Rob to introduce our guest, I'd like you to type in right now, hashtag let's go. And Rob, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. So we are excited to have our guest on today, and he is in the green room. We're ready to bring him on. But let me tell you a little bit about him first. Simon Parsons is the host of the High Value Skills podcast and encourages people to stop doing what they hate and start doing what they love, whether that's in business or in their personal life. He grew up thinking he'd never have success because he was always told that you have to go to school and you have to get a degree if you wanted to be successful. But he later found that success finds you when you learn how to add value, stop holding yourself back, and share your talents with others. Please help us welcome to the Master Connector Show, Mr. Simon Parsons. Welcome, Simon.
What is up, my friends? It is so good to be here with you guys. You are absolutely LinkedIn legends, so I am honored to join you here today. Let's blow some minds, my friends.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate it. LinkedIn legends. Boy, that's a tough one to hold up to. And Simon, you can hear me now, right, sir?
Definitely. Hopefully you can hear me. I am so sorry for the technical malfunctions, but hey, it wouldn't be a good show if you didn't have those, right? Keeps you on your toes.
Hey, listen, that's the beauty. Live TV is so cool, but it is so unpredictable, right? And we've had some shows, and Rob and I together haven't experienced this one, but we've had shows where we were planning and having a guest, and the guest didn't show, and all the questions were geared to that particular guest. And I'm like, all right, well, time to tap dance a bit. And I was starting to tap dance a little bit as you're trying to come on the screen with us. So, but here we are, and I'm really, really blessed. Simon, you're alumni of our show. We've had you on before. I've been blessed to be on some of your broadcasts, and it's just an honor to be on with you, sir. And just excited. So here's what I want to talk about, right? We're all about stories, right? We're always the big part of the show is kind of hearing the backstory. So if you're ready, I'd love for our community here, amazing community. And by the way, community, get in the comments, connect with each other. This is the Master Connector Show. So we want you in the comments. We're not LinkedIn lurkers. We're LinkedIn participants. And we have no clue if you're watching unless you get in the comments. LinkedIn only provides a number, whatever number as people watching. So we don't want you to just be a number, right? I don't think you want to be a number either, do you? So get in there and just at least say where you're from, where your city, or what city you're from, what country you're from. We want to hear from you, but also allow, it gives you the chance to connect with each other. So anyway, type in hashtag backstory, and we're going to go ahead and ask our first question to Simon. And Rob knows he has carte blanche to come in, and anything he wants to say or ask, he has carte blanche in that. But so Simon, I understand that you hated school. I get it. I was there too, right? And you thought you would never succeed. How did you overcome that? Because a big part of our show is overcoming obstacles, having the grit to overcome obstacles. So tell us a little bit of that kind of side of your story, the backstory, and how you overcame those challenges.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that. And yeah, please be active in the comments. I love what Rob said about let's go. I have kind of an acronym that I love to get the chat going. LFG, my friends, if you know what that means, drop an LFG in the chat. Let's get some energy going, and just super pumped that you follow Rob and Steve here on their amazing show. And thanks for letting me be a part of it. In answer to your question, when I was a kid and going to school, I just remember there was this very distinct moment where I was walking to school, and I thought to myself, is this all there is? And I just imagined myself having a very normal, average, bland life. I thought I'd grow up, force myself to go to school, and then get some type of a job that I didn't want, and just be grinding it all out all day, and then going home and being completely wiped out, doing the family thing, and then repeating that day after day. And as I got closer to graduating high school, I kept hearing, you have to go to school and get a degree if you want to be successful. And I hated that idea. I did not want to go to school, let alone pay more money to do something that I hated. And so I thought to myself, well, I guess I'm not going to be successful. That was what was ingrained in my mind. And I didn't realize this, but my life would change big time when one of my friends asked me if I would come work at the Salt Lake Country Club with him as a dishwasher. And I was like, I don't know if I can do the dishwasher thing. Is there like a slight step up from there that I could do? And I found out there was a position that I could get as a busboy at the Salt Lake Country Club. So I took that job, But I didn't realize it at the time that was going to change my life, because what it allowed me to do was work my way up from busboy to waiter to bartender and then into leadership. But the thing that I didn't realize is it would put me face to face with a lot of very, very influential people, a lot of self-made entrepreneurs, people with expansive mindset, people who understood how money worked. So that was kind of like my golden ticket. That was my windfall in life, was just being mentored by some of the wealthiest people in Salt Lake City. And it was great. It was a great experience for me. And eventually my boss, he could see that I was really interested in entrepreneurship, but I was too afraid to do anything about it. And so he pulls me into his office one day and he's like, Simon, okay, you're made for more and I believe in you. And I don't know if he was firing me or just like giving me a vote of confidence, but he said, hey, I'm going to give you 2 months worth of pay. And basically you're fired. Go out and figure it out. And so that's what I did. I left the country club with a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, but I didn't have courage. I didn't have confidence in myself. And I had a lot of ups and downs. And I think that's very relevant to this conversation, because looking back over the years, I realized how I had blown up businesses. I had blown up relationships because of this lack of self-worth that I didn't even know was there, that was hidden in my subconscious mind. And over the years, those ups and downs created me into the person that I am now. And I don't have a job. I don't have a career. I don't have any certifications. But I've been highly successful. I've been able to cultivate a high-value skill set, and that's enabled me to live a life that I never could have imagined when I was younger.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, and Rob and I know each other from a long time, and we were talking about before you jumped on with us. We have both, in our own different ways, struggle with self-worth, right? And it's interesting. So Rob and I actually shared at one point of our business career, have shared a mentor, and he was such a dynamic person, extremely successful. But for a long time, I was intimidated by him, and I played the comparison game and always fell short. And it wore on my self-esteem, wore on my self-image, because I was like, man, I'm not as funny as him. I'm not as dynamic as him. I'm not as charismatic as him, right? But I started to learn I had my own values, and to not try to get caught up in the comparison game like I did, right? And so it's pretty cool what you're talking about. I just got to make a side note journey here. You're talking about Salt Lake City, and in my marketing advertising days, I was blessed to work with. I did some work with Lever Brothers, and I was working on. I got to do a photo shoot of Steve Young, who's obviously spent a lot of time in Salt Lake, right? Brigham Young and all that. And what a cool guy, by the way. But it was Salt Lake City was one of my favorite cities to go to. The most impactful part of that was at a first impression, right? They say first impressions are everything, right? And I get out of the airport, and it's 360 glass in the airport, and around me, and because you're from there and live there, but mountains everywhere, because the Salt Lake is right in the middle of the I guess what would you call it, the
Rocky Mountains.
yeah. So it was pretty cool, but when you talk about Salt Lake, I have all these really, really good experiences from that. But I appreciate you telling us your story, because obviously many people can relate to that, right? Because I think we all and start out rocky in our own ways. Talk about Rocky Mountain, right? We start out rocky, many of us, and then some of us are fortunate to get around really cool people that elevate us, help us level up our game, right? And you mentioned some mentors in your life, and Rob and I in different ways, and have continued to have incredible people in our life that level us up. So, well, good stuff. I want to talk to you a little bit about. I want to move into the next stage here, and we want to get into sales. And although the show is not geared to sales per se, but I think sales professionals can relate to this. And by the way, if you're not a sales professional and you're married, you sold. If you're working for a company, you sold, right? So sales is many different things, right? So type in hashtag sales. But here's the question, right? Most people hate selling or loathe salespeople, right? I had several robocalls that came in today, and I'm embarrassed to say I hung up on. I don't even say, I appreciate it, but no, thank you. I just hung up. But anyway, how did you learn how to sell without being pushy or high pressure? I know that's some of that, those sound bites are in your profile. So I wanted you to get into that a little bit for us.
That's such a great question. I actually remember reading a book by Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, back in the late 90s. And he was talking about how he got into sales, and he felt like it was such a good thing for anybody to do so that it develops their confidence and their personal development. And I remember him talking about working for IBM and going into these big companies and finding the executives and trying to sell them on something. And that freaked me out. I was really scared by that. I was like, okay, that's one thing that I don't want to do is sales. And it's funny that that's something that's been my career for over 12 or 10 years now. And I feel like the reason why we get so freaked out about it is because, one, on TV, they glamorize it and they make it look like the Wolf of Wall Street. And sales doesn't necessarily have to be like that. And I think that a lot of people will get that as their impression, is like, I need to be pushy. I need to be kind of an alpha, high pressure. And I don't believe that that's what makes deals happen. I think that what's cool about sales is it's a lot like really good leadership. It's also a lot like really good coaching, which is asking questions. And I found that with sales, the way to do that without being high pressure is to hold space for your client, to be there for them and ask them the right questions that allow them to verbalize what they're dealing with in their situation. And the biggest problem that most salespeople have is they just go in guns blazing. You get this all the time on LinkedIn. I'm sure people will connect with you, and 2 seconds later, there's a DM in your inbox talking about them and their product. And Steve, I remember when you were on my podcast, we talked a little bit about How to Win Friends and Influence People as being a book that was very influential to you, and putting the focus on the other person and not yourself. I think that is probably the best book about sales in the world. You know, it's more of a communication or networking book, but I also think it's very relevant when it comes to sales, is just, hold space for somebody else, ask them the right questions. And if you do that, you're actually doing them a favor, especially when it comes to objections, is you're holding space for them to get it out of themselves. Let them know what's really hindering them.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so true. In that book, right, it talks about if you give somebody what they want, or they'll move heaven on earth to get it, right? It's a story in the book about there's I think it's like a donkey, and the lady is trying to get the donkey out of the barn, and he was just stubborn, wouldn't want to go. And then there was another person that knew that it was a young donkey that was still, I guess, I don't know what you call it, but like taking milk from its mother, suppling. I don't know if that's what it's called, but anyway. She knew that the donkey was still in that stage. So she put her finger in the donkey's mouth, so there was like that same feeling, and led the donkey out. And that's what we do, is if you could find out what they want by asking enough questions, being others focused, then you could definitely give them, help them get what they want, right? Not try to push what they want. So great perspective, Simon. I respect that a lot, Yeah. All right, so we want to kind of keep moving. And by the way, I want to shout out a few people. I really appreciate everyone on here. Parker Reynolds, great to see you, sir. Glad you're on here. Yolanda, we love you, Yolanda. You are awesome. We just appreciate your loyalty to the show. You're amazing. Appreciate you. And by asking questions, you can learn more about your customers' pain points, goals, and challenges. Very true. Marcus, good to see you. He said better late than never, and that's so true. Appreciate you making it on here from San Jose, CA, from the left coast. Good to have you on here with us. So if you're not in the comments, again, we don't know you're here. I know Chris Maze was having some audio challenges. Hopefully, Chris, sir, hopefully you got that resolved and put together. So anyway, let's keep the ball rolling here. So education, right? We were touching on that before in your backstory. So type in #education, please. And what we want to kind of talk to you about, Simon, is why do you say that the education system is becoming highly irrelevant, and what is that? What has that resulted in?
So I believe that what I thought was a hindrance for me early on has actually been something that's turning into an incredible opportunity. And what I mean by that is there's nothing wrong with school or education. I love learning. I love education. I just think that it's a paradigm that's it's been ripe for disruption for a long time. And the reason why is back in, when I was in the country club days, when I was a leader of the country club back in 95, 96, 97, a lot of my employees that worked for me were people who were graduates who had spent a lot of money, an incredible amount of money to get a degree, and they didn't have a lot of intention around that. And by the time they got out, they couldn't find a position using that degree, and they were working as a waitress or a waiter or bartender or a busboy to pay off those loans. That was 25 years ago. Since then, it's gotten so much more expensive, and there's so many people that are highly burdened with the weight of being in debt, being highly in debt. And in that time, technology and information has moved so much quicker, and it's getting tougher and tougher to predict success by going that pathway without setting the right intention around it. Now, I do think it's important to, weigh all the options, and if that's the right option for you, great. I just think it needs to be something that's highly intentional, because AI is coming out. AI is making a lot of jobs irrelevant. Technology moves so quickly. Information moves so quickly. So I do think it's an opportunity for us to revamp how we look at things. I also believe that there's a lot of opportunity with the internet, with social media, with the way that we learn, the way that we teach, the tools that are available to fill that gap. And I just think that, when I was younger, it was just implied that you needed to go to school and get a degree if you wanted success. And a lot of people that I talked to, 25 years ago, they had almost like randomly picked out a degree. And a lot of people talk about the pressure that they receive from society, from friends, from their parents, to just pick a path and go down it and hope that there's something on the other end of that. People can be in school for 4, 8 years. If you're a surgeon, you could be in school for 13 to 15 years. And coming out with a lot of debt. I was talking to my dentist the other day, and he was talking about, if you go to 8 years, if you become a dentist, that's 8 years of schooling, and you're going to be $500,000 in debt, and you will not have enough. You won't be able to have credit to start your own practice. You'll have to go in and be an employee for somebody else. So those are just some of the headwinds that I like to bring up. And, I'm not discounting education or educators by any means. I just feel like with any big problem, there's solutions that can come up and a lot of opportunity that can come with that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to tell you on that note,
drop.
I have a basic college education. Back when an associate's degree would do, a 2-year degree would do, I got one. And, as we were talking about earlier on, Steve and myself, our early journey, we may have college degrees, but I would say that it's not the college education, that's necessarily the problem, as much as diversity of education. Because although I have a degree in graphic design and advertising, and so I use that degree to get jobs. Now, I always wanted to own my own business, but having a job didn't really allow me to explore many other skills, because you get hired to, basically execute on a list of tasks, and they don't really want you doing anything else. I spent 25 plus years in corporate. And when I finally went out my own business, all the while, as we were saying, Steve and I go way back, while I had a job, we were learning all these other skills. There's the relationship skills, the speaking skills, whether it's me and you, or us, or speaking to a group of people in a room, or even on a stage. There's the leadership skills. There's the management skills. There's all these skills that once you get the degree, if you stop learning, you discount all those other skills that actually, according to my story, are the skills I needed to actually start winning. Now, I didn't find my career. Now, I love what you said, Simon, about, it used to be, and still is for some people, you'd say to your child who's a senior in high school or a junior in high school, find what you want to do for the rest of your life. And for a 17-year-old kid, it's like, are you kidding me? Now, way back when, there weren't many options, but today, all the options we have, there's no problem finding the information. There's no problem getting education, opportunities everywhere. Social media has leveled the playing field for marketing, and you can start a business now if you wanted to. And so I think those skills are really the skills that help us get ahead. And while the college education and the formal education counts, we have to make sure we're getting the other skills, because that's where I found my career. It took me 48 years to find the thing I love to do.
Crazy.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think too, while we're on the topic of self-worth too, that's an important thing to touch on too, is sometimes we value ourselves by our degrees and our certifications. And there's a little hyperbole in how I talk, because I want people to not feel like they're not worthy if they don't have a degree or a title or a career, because a lot of times people will just go, if they're not, things aren't going right in their career, the first thing that they do is they want to go sign up for another 4 years to get another master's degree, or more certifications, more titles. You are the source, my friends. And while those things can help you out, they can be a benefit to you. You are the source, not the degree, not the title.
So true.
Yeah.
So true. I just want to point out what Peter wrote here. I couldn't agree more. The education system has evolved in decades. The fact that the cost of college has increased more than twice as fast as inflation, and two-year community college a third faster over the course of the last 25 years speaks for itself. Thank you, Peter Laughter. Good to see you on here, sir. Appreciate you. And Parker is commenting on Marcus's amen, sir, was about to comment, but you took my thunder. Ha ha ha. So, which is this, right? Learning never stops, degrees or not. It's true. Yeah. And the biggest lesson for me was how to connect with people, right? How to create relationships. You know, I had the personality of watching paint dry, you know, like, I mean, and Rob saw me early on in my earlier business career, just no, and a lot
I'm
of
not saying anything, Steve. My lips are sealed.
but it was because I was so wounded, and there was a lot of growth that had to happen. But the education is so crucial in terms of self-education. And yes, college is great, but again, it takes you only to a certain point. You got to take it well beyond that. I want to just touch on artificial intelligence. Really interesting. It's a hot topic, and there's lots of debate on it and all that. But the one thing I will say about artificial intelligence is people like us, the three of us in this room, we will thrive in the artificial intelligence world because it's about connecting. And what artificial intelligence can't do is it can't connect with people. It's just robotic, right? It lacks that human touch aspect. So we will thrive in that. And so don't worry. Yes, listen, when the horse and buggy came out, there were a lot of people belly aching that were in that industry and that they were going to lose jobs. But then it created a whole nother, bunch of careers in the automotive industry, right? Which thrived for quite a while, still to some degree does thrive in a different way. Now electric is like the new trend in that realm. So anyway, let's keep going here. Want to kind of touch on the we're talking about thriving, right? You know, we kind of talked about that before. So type in #thrive if you're ready. I want you to community, definitely. Let's get in the comments. Appreciate everyone that's participating as well. Notice here, Peter actually wrote hasn't evolved. Okay, I got to figure out what that means, but appreciate that. But yeah, let's type in #thrive. So here's the question. Tell us about the high value skills that help you thrive in this modern creator economy, right? Because you were talking about how the education took you so far. But let's talk about those high value skills, which I know you talk a lot about on your podcasts and so forth. So let's get into that a little bit.
Sure. So I think that you can start with this. A lot of high value skills they're the ones I'm talking about that aren't taught in school. So you brought up networking, relationships, and to an extent you get that through interaction in school, but it's not something that's officially a part of curriculum. Sales is another example of that. Learning to be adaptable online. Now, if you think about the educational system and it moving so slow, I think about the Titanic and navigating through an iceberg field. Now, a lot of these skills that you can cultivate right now to give you an advantage and help you thrive in life, they move a lot quicker, right? AI is a perfect example of that. A big organization is not easily able to adapt to new technology, but an individual is. And I think with social media too, you and I remember this back in the day, Steve. There was, when we were growing up, you had three big broadcasting networks. You had NBC, right, CBS, right? And now you guys are literally here broadcasting yourselves. You got your own TV show that's been around for, we have so much power to become our own distributors, we don't need these big networks to do that. We all have the ability to do that. So I think because if we take advantage of it, you have these networks and stuff out there that are becoming obsolete. And then there are people like you that are creating your own shows. We can educate people quicker and more cost effectively. So you can become an educator. You can create courses. You can create a mastermind. You can create a membership community. You can create books. You can create a talk show on TV, just like you are, or you can make a podcast. That's the new radio show. So I think that those of us who are willing to fill that gap between where the high cost of education ends and all these skills that are necessary for people to thrive in the modern world. Mindset's another great example. We talk about self-worth, we talk about mindset, about psychology. Money mindset's huge too. Why didn't they teach that to us in school? Like, how do you understand abundance? How do you understand self-worth? How do you understand confidence? Those are skills. Those are high value skills. Sales is not taught in school, at least that I know of, right? How does somebody learn about sales? Anybody out there in the audience, we can fill the gap where traditional education ends and where people actually need to learn. Digital marketing, Facebook advertising, content creation, right? These are skills that are so robust and help people thrive in the modern world. And they're skills that you can learn for relatively inexpensive.
Great.
Yeah.
And we know that there's also now YouTube University, right? A lot of people are getting skills just through YouTube, or obviously, like you said, podcasts are a big part of that, on how you could learn some of these skills if they're not taught in the traditional educational space, or if you just don't have the budget to go back and spend thousands of dollars on education. There's other ways to get that knowledge, right? So, hey, the show is about value. It's about why you are amazing, right? So I want you, and this is going to be our final, so we're going to take it home with this, Simon. We're at the bottom of the hour here. But so type in hashtag value community, all right? And so here, you're the great Simon Parsons, right? Everyone knows that, knows you. You're amazing, right? But why do you feel that anyone should feel that they have amazing value as well?
That's such a great question. So here's something that comes up a lot, and it was kind of in the title of your show or this episode. We're talking about self-worth. And working with a lot of entrepreneurs, I've worked with over 200 coaches and consultants by now. And one thing, a very common issue that people deal with is a lack of self-worth, the feeling of not being enough. And what's really fascinating to me is the psychology behind that. And a lot of that comes from comparing, right? We see somebody we perceive as being further ahead on this path, and we're focusing on where we want to be and where we are now. And that creates lack. It creates a feeling of less than. And a lot of times we talk about like, oh, I'm not worthy of this. But I believe every single person, if you have been born on this planet, by default, you are worthy. And I think where people get caught up is there's a difference between taking action to get a result that you want and being worthy of it. And I love this imagery of thinking about, you in the audience. If you close your eyes and think about the 4-year-old version of yourself, just imagine yourself going back and meeting the 4-year-old version of yourself. You're out in this beautiful park and you see this beautiful individual there, and you go up to this younger version of yourself. Would you say that you're not worthy? How could you not be worthy? When I look at my children, how can they possibly not be worthy? So if you were born worthy of everything that you could possibly desire, how's it possible you can take that away? You can't. The only way you can take it away is if you perceive it that way. If you devalue yourself, by default, my friends, you are worthy of anything that you want. It still means that you need to go out there and learn things that you need to learn and take the actions that you need to take, start to think expansively, find those connections, but it has nothing to do with your self-worth. Now, it may feel like that, but that's all created internally.
Simon, that is so powerful. And I got to tell you, when you started talking about self-worth in depth like that, I started thinking way back when. And I meet people today who are very good at their jobs and they're very good at their thing. But then when you take them out of the context of that situation, you put them in others, you can see how their self-worth drops because they're not used to being in different environments. Right. And I think of all the things that we're talking about here, the topic of the show being you have amazing value, was overcoming that. That was like hurdle number one for me, but it was like a Mount Everest type climb that I had to get past that first. So I know I needed leadership skills and relationship skills and speaking skills. But the one skill I needed first was not really a skill. It was an understanding of the innate worth that I had. Because as a young guy, I knew you were smarter than me. I knew you had more money than me. I knew you were stronger than me, faster than me, better at sports, better at everything. I knew that for a fact, that I was never as good as anybody else in the room. And that was my belief. So most of the early self-development work I did was on recognizing my self-worth And so that big hurdle right there, once I got over that, the confidence came. And with confidence, well, then you could learn anything. And I have learned a lot of skills over the years. But man, nothing will take place big in somebody's life until their self-worth puts them to a place where they feel like they are worthy of whatever that endeavor is.
That is, it looks like Yolanda is shouting that out as a mic drop moment. I think that's what that emoji set that she did there. Great stuff, Rob. Thanks for sharing that with everyone here. And yeah, I mean, it's so true. For me, a lot of the self-worth was built because I put a bunch of books and audios and podcasts into this brain. And so I got to a point where I'm this cup that's full. And when you're full, you can overflow, right? A lot of times we operate on being half empty. I know this half full, half empty, but fill it up. And so now my mindset, not from an ego perspective, but is when I get into the room is better because I'm here. Just again, and I believe every one of you listening to this should feel that way as well. So, all right, we're going to wrap up here. Rob, you have some stuff do you want to share?
Yeah, I'm really excited. Simon has agreed to, he has an offer for us. He's going to give some giveaways. And just for showing up today to the Master Connector Show and listen to us talk and listen to Mr. Parsons here, he's going to give you something to take that you can use. And, I believe that every time you show up, you need to give value. And obviously, Simon comes from that same place. When you give something to somebody that they didn't have before they met you, you send them away better than before you met them. And so I appreciate that, Mr. Simon Parsons. We are going to give away, or he's going to give away 50 plus LinkedIn content ideas. And, Simon, I'm sure you hear this all the time. People say, yeah, I know I need to be on LinkedIn, but, I don't really know what to put up there. Right. And so obviously Simon's heard that so much. He's like, well, I'm going to solve that problem for you. So I'm going to put it in the chat now. 50 plus LinkedIn content ideas to get you started. Simon, you want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, I think a lot of times this is a perfect example of how we get in our own way. I think people will sit there and they'll struggle. What should I post on LinkedIn? Well, I've given you 50 ideas. You can pull this out anytime you want if you want to start getting more active on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's a great way to start building connections. This is how I met Steve, and we go way back now. I can't believe time's gone by that fast, but you'll never imagine the connections that you can make on LinkedIn. And we overcomplicate things. We start to worry about, what are people going to think of me? Well, hey, creating content is personal development. It's a way for you to express what's inside of you that is waiting to come out. Not only that, is if you start posting on LinkedIn, you will be participating in the creator economy. Start getting some of the stuff, some of that magic that's inside of you, some of that knowledge, that value that you have, and put it out in a post. And I've given you a framework to start getting some of that outside of you and onto LinkedIn, where you can start building some connections and you can enjoy the platform and participate in the creator economy. You never know what's behind the content that you create, and you might be creating your own next business by doing that.
Love that.
Awesome.
So Simon, as we're wrapping up here, please tell the community how the best way for them to reach you and any last closing comments.
Thank you so much. So I would love it if you just send me a connection request on LinkedIn. It may be something that resonated with you. If I was able to add value and you found a unique takeaway, I'd love to hear about that. If you are interested in shifting away from what you don't like to do as far as a job or a career, and you want to start moving in the direction of living a life of complete alignment while making money doing what you love, please find me on Spotify or Apple, the High Value Skills Podcast. Right now, I really am not selling anything. I just believe in just taking the stuff, just like I told you, the stuff that's in my head and putting it out there as far as content and supporting you. So you couldn't pay me even if you wanted to right now. I just want you to listen to the podcast and hopefully have some good takeaways that you can implement in your life.
That's so awesome. And speaking of giving stuff away, we want to give you value, right? So everything we want to do is to help you level up. So we want to make sure that you're getting a hold of Steve Spiro's book here, The Tao of a Master Connector. And, a lot of people may not know this, but Steve is a black belt, several degrees in a couple of different disciplines in martial arts. And, he took that discipline and he applied it to the business world. And, he wrote a book about the things he's learned along the way. And the way an introvert became a master connector. So you want to pick that up on Amazon. I got my copy here right next to me. So you're going to want to get that because you want to get inside the mind of a master connector.
I appreciate that, Rob. Thank you so much for that. Listen, we are amazingly grateful. We thank, first of all, thank you, Simon Parsons. You were incredible. You brought the heat. You brought it with, you brought the energy. We appreciate that. We also want to thank our viewers, our community. We couldn't do this without you. We support you. We're here for you. You're why we're here, right? And I do want to just mention next week, don't miss it. We are going to have an incredible episode. Now, Rob has a speaking gig that he's going on, which is awesome for him. So he's taking a week off, but we have Dr. Philip Reed co-hosting with us as we bring on Margie Sherman, episode 132, Wednesday, same bad time, same bad channel, the 27th at 1 p.m. Eastern here, being powerfully vulnerable. This is going to be a really cool, you don't want to miss this episode for sure. But listen, I just want to say this as we close here, really close, right? Remember, we live in a world where there's a lot of darkness, loneliness, and hurting people. Let's always remember to shine our light, uplift, and encourage one another. Let's be the light, all right? And so we appreciate you. Thank you again, everyone. And we're going to close out with the video. Appreciate you. See you guys next week. Thank you, Simon. You're the man.
Steve, cue that video, please.
I can cue that video shortly.
Thank you, Simon Parsons, for showing up. Great talking with you.
All right, we're getting there. All right, here we go. Maybe we don't have, do we have, oh, here we go. Here we go.